Hey everybody, welcome back with part 6 of my GMG review of Codex Chaos Space Marines, this time the Emperor's Children. Now, of course, they are the only one of the Fab 4 Chaos God-aligned legions that doesn't have their own book right now. The World Leaders are about to get one along with new models, and they got some stuff in White Dwarf. Of course, the Death Guard and the Thousand Sons have had them for a while. But the Emperor's Children are the ones that remain, basically, in this book. Now, if you want to check out the core rules, of course, you can go open the cards, look at all the other Chaos Space Marine stuff, but this is going to focus purely on those devoted to Slaanesh. Now, they've got a pretty cool Legion trait, which we'll jump into. It is Flawless Perfection. You can ignore all the modifiers to their weapon skill and ballistic skill. So basically, you can shoot planes, you can shoot Eldar who are far away, a Latok Eldar, Raven Guard, anybody who's going to throw you a negative modifier, even people in dense cover. You hit normally, all the time. It does ignore any or all hit roll, weapon skill, and skill modifiers. It doesn't mean that your changing stat lines don't change, though. So before anyone asks, if you're a damaged vehicle and your stat line degrades, that's your new ballistic skill. It's not a modifier. It is just a completely new stat line. And then each time a model with this trait makes an attack, an unmodified wound roll of 6 gets a bonus AP, because you're perfect. You put the sword in just the right spot, and the person is no longer alive. Now your bespoke secondary, of course, is Adorn the Canvas Eclectic. Now this is the same as what's in Warzone Nephilim Grand Tournament, and that means the pack rules are the same as what's in here. The only reason that that's some confusion going forward right now is that this book says ignore what's in your codex. These are the same as in this book, so you should be okay until, of course, a new version of the mission pack comes out, and then maybe it'll go back to not being the same. But for now, you are the exception, the special like codex that is the same, and hopefully the codex is going forward for the next little while. We'll just mimic what's in there and be all right. Because you don't want to have an addendum to an addendum. You don't want to have an addendum that says ignore what's in your codex, but then have an addendum to the addendum that says, I know it says to ignore what's in the codex, but don't ignore it in this case because, you know what I mean, you just end up in a rabbit hole. So we'll see what happens. So Adorn the Canvas Eclectic, this is a great progressive objective for No Mercy, No Respite, because it's all based on things you want to be doing anyway. So the first one is, basically, for all these things, you score 1 VP at the end of a turn, at the end of a battle round, sorry, for each of the following things that applies. So there's 4 bullet points, you can get 4 points from it, but if you get all 4, you get a 5th bonus one. So there is a potential to get 5 in a single battle round. So the first one is control more objectives than your opponent at the end of the battle round. That's, I mean, you want to be doing that. You also kind of want to be going second in that case, too, to control this. More enemy units were destroyed by range attacks made by Emperor's Children than vice versa. More enemy units were destroyed by melee attacks made by Emperor's Children than vice versa. And more enemy characters were destroyed by attacks made by Emperor's Children characters than vice versa. So basically, you want to have done those 3 things more than your opponent, which, I mean, show me a game of 40k where you don't want to be doing all those things anyway. And because if you get all 4 of them, you get a bonus point. You only have to have 3 out of 5 battle rounds where you get them all to max out at 15. So I actually quite like that, because you're a fighty army or a choppy army. You do all of those things that you want to be doing anyway, and you're going to get rewarded with secondaries. So it's also kind of hard to forget unless you don't keep track of it. I would just probably have like chits or counters for like characters, units, and like flip them. You know what I mean? So like purple on one side, whatever the enemy color is on the other side. And every time you get one, you put it in that color. And if the opponent gets one, you put one down flipped. And that's how I keep track of it. So anybody want to make Emperor's Children counters for this objective, then that's how I do it. I have the full gamut of 6 Warlord traits. So stimulated by pain, of course. Every time you take a wound, you get an extra attack to a maximum of +3, which makes sense because there's a lot of wounds on some of these characters. Like you'd have the Lord Discordant going around with +8 wounds at his top bracket. And when you're destroyed, if you're within engagement range, you get to fight before you're pulled off. It's neat. Intoxicating Musk, if you're within 3 of the Warlord, you -1 to hit. When you make a melee attack, not a shooting attack. Unbound Arrogance, each time this Warlord is selected to fight, you and your opponent secretly choose a number between 1 and 3 on a d6, so you just hide the d6 and then reveal at the same time. If the numbers aren't the same, you get that many bonus attacks. So it's just a cheeky little hand of dust, heart of dice thing. Faultless, I don't particularly like Warlord traits that don't work all the time, so yeah. Faultless Duelist, Each time you make a melee attack, reroll the hits, and when you're in engagement range with the enemy Warlord, subtract -1 attacks from the enemy model. You're a duelist. A glutton for punishment. Each time an attack is allocated to this Warlord, if the Warlord does not have the vehicle keyword, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack to a minimum of 1. And then each time this Warlord would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, on a 5+, it's not lost. So 5+ wound against mortal wounds. And then Loathe some Grace. You get +2 movement and reroll advance and charge rolls. That one I do quite like. Rerolling advance and charge rolls, but +2 to move is also really cool. Again, there's great Warlord traits base, like the mortal wounds and reroll of wounds. One from the generic set is pretty amazing. I don't know if any of these really compete with that. Stimulated by pain, maybe, for the bonus attacks if you're trying to make a fighty guy. Make a cruise missile character. Maybe not as your primary Warlord, but like as a secondary one, if you want someone who's just going to be fighting all the time. And then Stratagems. Cruel Bladesman. Use a stratagem in the fight phase when an Emperor's Children unit from your army is selected to fight until the end of the phase. Each time a Heretic Astraeus model in that unit makes a melee attack, improve its AP by 1. So just +1 AP for 2 CPs. Honor the Prince. Use a stratagem phase on your charge phase after selecting the Emperor's Children core Demon King unit to advance or declare a charge. If used in your movement phase, don't make an advance roll, just add 6. And if used in the charge phase, don't roll a 2d6 for that unit's charge roll. Instead, until the end of the phase, roll d6 + 6 for the charge roll. That means you're making a 9-inch charge on a 3+. So, yeah. I don't know how the command reroll would interact with that, because you're supposed to reroll the whole charge roll, but you'd just be rerolling the d6. So I think you could probably reroll the 3+. I feel like maybe that would work, but that's a really cool Warp Talon jump in. Show up outside of 9 and then drop those Warp Talons in, because it works on Demonkin units and core units, right? So jump in with Warp Strike, and then for 1 CP, 3+ charge, plus maybe a command reroll if you need it. You're getting more command points in this new mission pack too, right? Because you're getting one during your opponent's turn as well. So I feel like Honor the Prince Warp Talons might end up being a thing, because Warp Talons are still pretty rad, and there's still all kinds of stuff to jack them up too. Excessive Violence. It's a battle tactics stratagem. Using your command phase, if your army is engaged in either wanton destruction or wanton massacre, select one Emperor's Children infantry unit from your army. Until the start of your next command phase, they're in wanton slaughter. So basically push back to the one you want. Incessant Disdain for 1 CP. Use in the Heroic Intervention step of your opponent's charge phase. Select a core, Daemonkin, or character unit from your army until the end of the phase. If that unit's not a character unit, it can heroically intervene. And if it is a character unit, it's eligible to perform a heroic intervention within 6 and 5. Death Ecstasy for 2 CPs. Use a stratagem in the fight phase when Emperor's Children infantry unit from your army is selected as the target of a melee attack. Until the end of the phase, if a model is destroyed by a melee attack, if that model's not fought yet, they can pound and fight. You fight after the attacking model's unit finishes making their attacks, and then remove from play. Soporific Gaze for 2 CPs. Use a stratagem at the start of the fight phase. Select one Emperor's Children character model from your army. Then select one enemy unit within 3. That enemy unit's not eligible to fight until after all eligible units from your army have done so. So, like, yeah, you basically just lock someone down for 2 CPs. And then it's any enemy unit. So that's going to work on knights. That's going to work on basically anybody. Like a Titan, you could just stop from fighting until the end. A Demon Prince, it's just someone within 3 goes to strike last, which is why it costs 2. Combat Elixirs. Use stratagem when an Emperor's Children core or character unit from your army is selected to fight. Until the end of the phase, add one of the strength characteristic of models in that unit, and improve the weapon skill of the characteristic of the unit by 1. So if you want to combat elixir those Warp Talons, have them hit on 2s. And then, yeah. Oh no, it's a core character. Sorry, you can't combat elixir because they're Demonkin. They don't have core. Boo! But you could give it to, I guess, your characters. Like a stabby character. Excruciating Frequencies for 1 CP. Use stratagem in your shooting phase. When an Emperor's Children unit from your army is selected to shoot, you can do it to Raptors, I guess. Until the end of the phase, each time a model that unit makes an attack with a sonic weapon, on an unmodified wound roll of 6, the target suffers a mortal wound in addition to any normal damage. You can't take more than 6 a turn or a phase by that strat. And after that unit's finished making its shooting attack, select one enemy unit that was hit by an attack made by a sonic weapon in that unit this phase. They can't overwatch or set to defend. I'm surprised there's not more sonic weapon stratagems here, but I do like that one. So stratagem-wise, obviously, Honor the Prince is probably the big winner. 1 CP to be able to get a D6 plus 6 charge. Meaning you can long bomb 9-inch charges. There's a few cool cannons for that. Obviously, I already said warp cannons, but anybody else who could deep strike in. So your Terminators could do it. If you want to make a big fat Terminator squad, you could do it with a Demon Prince, because I think he has Warp Strike. No, he does not Warp Strike. He's a character, though, so he can take the combat elixirs, which is cool. Who else has Warp Strike besides the Terminators? Warpsmith does not. Dark Commune does not. Legionaries, Cultist Mob, a Cursed Cultist, a long bomb charge, maybe. Yeah, your Terminators could do it. Your Possessed don't have Warp Strike, but I mean, it just gets them into combat if you need them to, because your Possessed are basically Greater Possessed now and are pretty awesome in melee. And there are a few other core stratagems that you could, like, combine that with, right? Such as, where's the tactical one? Not that one, not that one. Like Winds of the Warp, so you pull someone off and move them around, and then use that to bring them back. Use stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase when a traitorous is if you when a traitorous is starting his biker or a traitorous starts jump pack unit from your army that advanced in your previous movement phase or was set up in the battlefield during the reinforcements. Oh, you can make a -1 to hit. That's the one. It's the one that you get to. Oh yeah, Vicious Descent. There you go. Using your charge phase when you do Vicious Descent, so you can use it to throw in the mortal wounds. Trying to find another one that's like a bring in over 9 inches. I think that's really going to be it. It's going to be the Warp Strike one. Obviously, you can use it to bring in Wrath of the Chosen with your Terminators. Get +1 to hit on the charge. All right, Relics. Now I love the story for this one, the Endless Grin. So basically, someone asked to live forever. So Slaanesh is like, sure, but just go see this Chaos Lord and he'll give you the gift. So he makes him live forever, but the Chaos Lord cuts him into pieces, and he's still alive while he's cut into pieces, and his face, he basically wears as a mask forever. And because he's in so much pain, because he's in pieces, each time the bearer would lose a wound, roll d6, you get a 6+ wound shrug. And then once per battle, when the bearer is destroyed, you can use this relic instead of using any other things that are triggered by being destroyed. If you do so, mark the bearer's position in the battlefield. At the end of the phase, roll a d6, and on a 3+, you send him back up with d3 wounds remaining. Fatal Sonnancy. At the end of your movement phase, you can select one enemy unit within 12 inches invisible. Roll a d6 on a 4+ to take a mortal wound. And it's every movement phase, not like one use. The Armor of Abhorrence. Each time an enemy unit, excluding Titanic unit, within 3 of the bearer is selected to fall back, you roll a d6, and on a 4+ they can't. The Remnant of Moraviglia. Emperor's Children Priest model only, once per battle. At the end of your command phase, the bearer can use this relic. If it does so until the start of your next command phase, you have the following aura. While a friendly Emperor's Children core or Emperor's Children character is within 6 of the bearer, add one of their attacks. Yeah, it's the Grand Symphony, played by the Emperor's Children at the onset of the Horus Heresy. It's this crazy, like, the Meraviglia was this crazy, like, song. If you ever want to read Fulgrim, it's got some weird stuff in it, and the Meraviglia is part of it. Distortion, it's a power sword, force sword, or cursed weapon only. It has 2 different profiles. The first one is an Elegant Incision. Its user's strength -2 AP and 1 damage, but each time an attack is made, make 2 hit rolls instead of 1. And an Inelegant Slash, it's ×2 strength, -4, 2 damage. So a neat little power sword with like a little stab, or you can be ×2, -4, 2 damage. So you double your attacks, or basically be a power fist with -4 save and only flat 2. Oh no, that power fists are flat 2 now. That's a pretty great power sword, actually, just for the being able to double your attacks if you're fighting little guys or like hit hard. The Raiment Revulsive, Emperor's Children model only. This relic can be given to cultists. So while the friendly Emperor's Children units within 6 of the bearer, if that unit is performing an action, it can shoot without the action failing. On enemy units within 6 of the bearer, that enemy cannot start to perform an action. So you can stop actions from happening. And your Emperor's Children are within 6, they can just do it and still shoot. So very handy for that one to be given to like a cultist unit, such as your little cultist mob. What are they called? The Dark Commune. And give it to like the leader. And then you've got that aura where you can have your sonic weapons still fire and let them go around button pushing. Because your Noise Marines are pretty great. I like how there hasn't been Noise Marine models that they want to show other than the Noise Marine, the rocker. And he's supposed to be the Blastmaster now, obviously. I wish you could, I don't even think you could still buy him. I don't even know, it's crazy he's in here. But he's still pretty great with his single frequency and variable frequency. Unfortunately, anybody can have a Sonic Blaster, because they normally just have bullet guns. But only one Noise Marine's bullet gun can be replaced with a Blastmaster, not even one per like a certain unit size. Even if you have 10 guys, you get one Blastmaster. And then you can get a Doom Siren and an Icon of Slanesh and stuff. But you get +1 damage with the Blast or the Sonic Blasters. So it's interesting. I mean, you've got a bunch of like melee buffs basically here. You've got like Excruciating Frequencies will allow you to get the 6+ mortal wounds. So you do want to give them sonic weapons because like you don't want them to keep their bolters, obviously, because you're trying to get that 6+ to wound being a mortal wound on top of normal damage. And they're relatively inexpensive. Like they're not crazy expensive as far as, are they heavy support Noise Marines? No, what was the value I was just looking at? They are elite still, yeah, okay. Noise Marines, they're 21 points each. They're basically the cost of a Primaris Marine. But the sonic weapons don't cost anything, which oh no, they do, they cost 5 points each. Oh my god, they're 5 points each? Yikes. They are relatively expensive then for being 2 wounds. I mean, it's Assault 3, 4-1 sonic weapon, which means it's plus damage at 12 inches. So it is a really good gun. And you've got a stratagem for, what is it, 1 CP to have them cause mortal wounds. So I think that Raiment Revulsive behind them so they can just advance and do, because like the thing is you can be on the move the whole time with them too, because they're all assault, right? So you just give them their assault weapons and have them poop out mortal wounds and be core, so they can reroll and get the core bonuses from Chaos Swords and stuff as well. But that's it for the Emperor's Children. You've got, yeah, and you've got a bunch of like duelist items that you'd want to give to, I mean, sorry, I guess the last thing we should go through is Lucius real fast, which I find interesting. They're still using that 1D as Lucius model. He's still a great duelist. He's not, I mean, he's not that, the Armor Streaking Souls is cool. He's got a 4+ invul, and then he doesn't come back anymore though. That's the weird thing. I liked his old thing. I mean, it would, like the whole story behind him is like that you can't kill him and you just turn into him if you kill him. Is cool, but I had to have it actually be a rule in the game is a little bit too powerful, where killing him becomes just a curse. D6 mortal wounds is still pretty bad. He's only 120 points. He's cheap. He is a Chaos Lord though, so he would be your Chaos Lord choice for the game. And you can't really customize him then either. So really you're just talking about customizing like a core Chaos Lord and making him your super stabber with a power weapon. Oh, it's all special characters at the beginning. There he is, Chaos Lord. And he's not, I mean, he's not that comparatively different. You can give him like the special invulnerable or super sword. So he's got a 2+ to hit, strength 8, -4, 2 damage sword. You build one with a power sword. You can do him as a Chaos Lord too and have him warp in even. And have him have, what is it, 12 attacks if you want with the little sword. So you go Chaos Lord, give him the Mark of the Flame, and give him that power sword. And now you've got a guy who can, so you have Terminator armor, give him the core, or is it the core, so he's always fighting first, because he's Mark of Slanesh. And if he's got that sword, he can do the variable attacks, and then Warlord trait, give him Flames of Spite. So we roll the attack's wound roll, so you can fish for those 6s, and each time the Warlord makes an attack on a modified wound roll of 6, you take a mortal wound in addition to normal damage. So reroll wounds, and then 6s to wound or a mortal wound, and then you've got 12 attacks, right? So in addition to normal damage. So that's a pretty cool thing, and then you can get him into combat, you deep strike him in, you can use the for the Dark Prince to like throw him away. And just make him not your, I guess he'd have to be your Warlord then, if he's got a command trait. But you can have additional Warlord traits on people too, right? So you can have 3 people with Warlord traits and have that Chaos Lord just be like a kind of a smash captain, right? Because he can also go ×2 if he wants. And reroll wounds with a strength 8 attack. I feel like there's some legs there. That could be cool. 4+ invul. Yeah, just make his a cursed weapon or his sorry, he can have one weapon from the melee weapons list. He just can't have a chain sword. So yeah, it's just his power axe gets replaced with a power sword, and then off you go. You give him that relic, and that ain't bad. And so there it is, the Emperor's Children. Not quite a full, like, we've got the whole gamut. Hopefully they get some plastics at some point, and that makes them a little more, you know, of the moment, because I think they've got some neat rules, and right now you're kind of leaning into old models, but you could get the old, if you can find the old metal sonic weapon arms, they'd probably look really good on the current Chaos Space Marines, because the current Chaos Space Marines are really nice. And then you're just using, you know, like just the weapon bits, basically, which would probably fit in fine. So there we go. Look at the Emperor's Children. Next up, it's the Red Corsairs with kind of they have about half of what's here, so it's gonna be a quick one. And then finally the Creations of Bile. So we'll see you for the next one. Till then, I'm Ash. Hey there. I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look to the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My two kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continuing to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Death Ray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.